here. We
Behind the Law. That's it.
go.
I thought of the name when I was getting a massage
I was going to ask you that.
in 2008. I was like, I gotta
Somebody
figure out a
was
name for
behind
this
you
radio
massaging.
show. Yeah.
Did you really?
I swear. That's the only time my brain works. I can't hear anything, Skid. I'm
I
sorry.
haven't done anything yet.
I'm
I
the
can't
law.
hear
There's
you.
a person behind me.
WOTW HD2 Windermere, Bud 94.1. From the attorneys Justin Clark and Associates YouHavePower.com studios, this is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to the program and another edition of Behind the Law with me, attorney Justin Clark. Thank you for spending some of your weekend with me right here in the studio. 321-282-1055 for any legal question that you might have. The website is www.youhavepower.com. You can watch the show live on Facebook at ATTY Justin Clark. And I want you to call me for anything from accident to zoning. Give us a call. During the week, I focus mostly on bankruptcy, IRS problems, real estate, personal injury, and even student loan problems. But for the purposes of this program, call me for anything. 321-282-1055. Joining me, as always, is my good friend, Orlando radio legend Mick Dolan. Mick, how are you, sir?
Wonderful.
Good to see you, brother.
I'm bright and bushy-tailed or something like that.
I don't know if that's how it goes or not.
I don't
but
think it does, but anyway.
We'll work with,
close
we'll
enough,
work with
close
it.
enough.
And Marketing Jake is here, timely pushing all the buttons, making sure that the video's rolling today. Marketing Jake, good job, pal. And Skid is letting us borrow the studio as always, pushing the buttons, getting us on the air. What's up, Skid? How are you?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Skid from our sister station, 103.1, The Wolf from the Chad Show with Skid. I heard you're going to be somewhere special today.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we've got a whole bunch of stuff happening this week. I'm going over to Crooked Can, though, because I like the beer over there.
I see. Everyone's a microbrewer now, it seems.
Yes,
huh?
they are.
They all started in their closet in college, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it seems like to me. But there's plenty of good beer out there.
Just
now.
beer that they start in the closet, though, in college. Nothing else. Nothing else.
I got you.
Yeah.
I had my first parent-teacher conference today.
Oh, nice.
And I went solo because Pilar's about to have the baby, so she has to go to the doctor every week. So I get there. I'm like, first of all, my first one. Second of all, I'm solo. And they sit you down. And my kid's in kindergarten, right? So you know how big the seats are in kindergarten? Have you seen a kindergarten class lately?
They're tiny.
I mean, it's tiny. So I was looking around. I was like, where do I sit? They're like, right there. And so really you have to like bend down and sit in this little chair. So I already feel like this big anyway. You know what I mean?
So now you know what she feels like.
And it's not, but she's at least small. Yeah. I'm not tall myself, but so I'm sitting there. It's not one teacher, but two teachers. And I'm like, how's everything going? I mean, everything okay? And I know my kid's nice, but they go through the whole, you could do a little more on math, a little more on spelling. I said, yeah, it's probably our fault. I was taking the blame. We don't work with her enough at night. But then, so my kid is young. She's like July 21st, so that's the summer
barely
baby.
Made the
so the teacher, who I know pretty well, they're great teachers, by the way. But I know you have something else to say, and I just like, you say it. I want you to be honest with me. You can say it.
Yeah, really.
She's like, well, have you ever thought about maybe repeating kindergarten? I was like, what? Repeating kindergarten?
Whoa.
So it was like a bombshell, right? I don't think I'm supposed to talk about this, by the way. You guys don't mention this to anyone.
No,
okay?
we won't say a thing. Not a thing.
Our little secret.
So my first parent-teacher conference, I was like, I don't know. And then they said, what school is she going to go to next year? And I said the name. I won't repeat it here. And they're like, ugh. it was a discernible, ugh.
Oh, man.
I was like, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. I'll
So
go to
what
work
did you
now.
decide?
Well, I didn't decide anything. I said, we'll let the year play out, see how it goes.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my first and last ever parent-teacher conference. I don't know how well it went today.
Leave it up to the wifey. Yeah.
A very good friend of mine joining us today, by the way. His name, Anthony Sabatini. Anyone in Lake County, I know that you know this name. He's the young up-and-comer. The first time I ever met Anthony, the person who introduced me said, I'd like you to meet the future governor of the state of Florida.
Whoa.
I'm telling you. And I was like, come on, man. But as I've gotten to know Anthony better over the years, I mean, I don't have any doubt in my mind that the ceiling is very high for this guy. Anthony, we're coming in a little bit late. How do we win this thing?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. How do we win for Florida House District 32? Because we're going to win.
Yeah.
First of all, welcome to the show.
We're going to win. Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on, man.
We're going to win. How are we going to win this thing?
Great. Yeah, we're going to win. State House District 32. It's pretty simple. Winning elections is just about getting to know people, meeting people, knocking on doors, and listening to them. if you do that and you do it seriously, you're going to win. Most people who lose, I think, honestly, not all cases, but most cases, they just don't make the effort to meet the actual voters. I mean, maybe some important, self-proclaimed important people and whatnot is who they try to target and meet. But if you're just going out the neighborhoods and meeting normal working people and families, you're generally going to be able to, meet most of them and winning the race, in my opinion.
When is this election?
This is August 28th.
This is an August election. This is a primary. It's all Republicans, I guess, right?
Yeah. Lake County is pretty blood red, so it's just a primary county.
Do they ever make it to November in Lake County, or is it pretty much always decided in August?
Yeah, the nonpartisan seats, that's it.
So I was at his kickoff rally the other day, and I met Anthony through other Lake County friends of mine, so I just assumed he was Lake County. Then the mother comes over, right? His mom, who's real sweet, by the way, owns the restaurant. She's like, "Hey, honey, how are you doing?" Just straight Long Island Italian, and I loved it. So I think maybe that's where you get some of your spunk, and really you're not afraid to fight back when things go wrong. All right, and so let me tell you a little story about Anthony, and I don't think he'll mind that I share this because it was something that really pissed me off when it happened. So you were when were you elected to Eustis? Is it city council?
It was 2016.
2016. So he's elected to the Eustis city council. What do they call it?
Commission council.
The city commission, right? And then the other commissioners decide they don't like this little young punk kid because he's fighting back on things. So they literally decide that they don't like him anymore. And what do? They start to say, well, we don't think that you were really living here during this election. I might have talked about this on the show, actually, Mick. I don't remember. Wow. The kid is in law school in Gainesville, right? When he's running for election, running for political office, and they try to throw him off of the commission. Can you believe this?
Because you were going to school.
Well, there was
location.
There was a question
outside of Lake
that
County
they happened to come to after 4 or 5 controversial issues on the commission. They said, "Well, looking back, we don't know if you actually met that residency requirement, having to live here for a year, because you were enrolled at the law school and you were living in 2 places. Just total nonsense, basically." And kind of like challenging the election after you don't like the results kind of thing Hillary did.
Where do you get the confidence? Because whether you're in law or any other business, really, when you first start out in politics, everyone that you're dealing with essentially is going to be older than you, right? I would go to court. I would go in the courtroom, and the seasoned lawyer who's been practicing for 30 years was on the other side. It takes a certain kind of individual to be able to not be afraid to fight back. Where do you think you get the confidence, especially when it came to the commission, when they were trying to run you out of there, to not only say, guys, chill out. You were fighting back. Yeah. Where do you get that confidence?
Let me say one thing on the age thing, which is I always tell people I'm the only city commissioner in Eustis not eligible for Medicare. And I get the confidence honestly because it comes from just passionate. Just how disturbed I am by the commission, because you look at a political body, and if you see how malfunctioning it is and how incompetent it sometimes is, it infuriates you. So maybe that's not the politically correct answer, but it comes from rage and disappointment. And so I just try to bring reason and debate and argument into the commission, into a political body that doesn't use that. It's all driven on just kind of feel goodness and emotions and just silliness. And so, just trying to bring some reason and some argument for innovation into the government comes from the fact that I know it would be better than what we have now.
I have 1,000 questions for you, but first of all, how do people find out more information about you? How do they find out how to support monetarily or however else? How do we find out more information?
Well, now I have a website up, what's launching today, votesabatini.com, but most people just go to the Facebook page. So Facebook Flant Vote Sabatini. The Facebook page is way bigger.
How can people help?
Yeah, so they go to the Facebook page. There's donations. There's a form to sign up to get involved. They can call me anytime, 352-455-2928. I always put my cell phone on my business card, so on my political card, so people can access me anytime and get involved. But yeah, things are really shaping up on the campaign, so I'm looking forward to getting some more helpers and volunteers.
District 32 covers where?
Yeah.
It is all of Lake County, except for what they call the Golden Triangle, which is Eustis, Mount Dora, Taveri. So that historic part is actually in a district with a Popka, but the rest of the county is District 32.
where does Golden Triangle come from?
It's because it's such an old citrus county.
Okay, I see.
And so that was the heart of the citrus industry was North Lake County.
But it was the heart. It's not anymore.
No longer. Now it's the heart of knickknacks and shopping centers.
As someone who spent a lot of their time in Tennessee and then spent the rest of their life in Boston and then came to Florida, it's so weird having Lake County right next door to us here in Orlando because Lake County reminds me so much of Tennessee.
Yeah,
there's a really
It's got hills.
good. Yeah, there's hills.
There's some hills too.
Hills, and it's really the personality of its citizens and its residents. I mean, just really fantastic people over there. I live up in Lake Mary, and every time I hit 46 and start heading to Lake County, mentally I literally relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Lake County is just a fantastic area, and I think that they're absolutely lucky to have Anthony Sabatini, who's running for Florida House District 32 this August. No, don't wait till November. November's too late. We got to get out in August and vote for him. And I know you have a lot of great support. Now, when we were fighting with the commission again, it was something I followed very closely with you. How did it feel? It was probably the first time that you really saw how much support you really had and how much support you really drummed up in the community. Because I saw people come out, whether it was on Facebook and their responses or how they showed up at that meeting. How did it make you feel seeing that much support?
It felt great, but at the end of the day, it just reminded me of the fact that these things happened, and if it wasn't for, obviously being able to communicate and using social media, these things happen all the time. I think we were able to effectively respond, and we had 110 people in the room. It was standing room only. The commission was essentially shouted down. They dropped the entire, was going to be a lawsuit and residency inquiry immediately. But this kind of stuff happens all the time, and that's all I really thought about through it was, I'm lucky that I obviously had that network, but these self-interested establishment politicians do this kind of stuff all the time. But a lot of times their victims aren't so lucky. Every week somebody comes into City Hall. I can't believe that the city administration treated me this way. Not all those people were lucky enough to be able to have that network to respond with, and that's what motivates me in politics is, because obviously I come from all small business owners. My family had restaurants and small businesses their whole lives, and just the way they had to interact with local government really inspired me to get involved and then try to bring common sense into it. So, yeah, the whole thing just animates the whole reason why I ran in the first place.
I was kind of hoping that maybe you'd bring some food in today.
I know. What am I doing?
Jeez.
Yeah, my family does have a pretty good restaurant over in Lake County, as Justin might have mentioned.
Fantastic.
And so,
what's it called? JB's?
JB Boondocks.
That
So it's
place is
funny.
great.
It's the traditional story.
I love
I
that
come from
name.
a pretty hardcore Italian family that just transitioned into kind of more Central Florida American style food. Yeah. It used to be white tablecloth, all seafood and it's pastas and specialties. Now it's burgers and fries.
That's right. My name is Justin Clark. He is Anthony Sabatini, running for Florida House District 32, 321-282-1055. Plenty more right after this break. Bud 94.1. Welcome back to the program, and thank you for spending some of your weekend with me right here on Behind the Law with Justin Clark. 321-282-1055. We're staying away from a lot of legal questions today, but if you do have questions, 321-282-1055 or youhavepower.com. That is youhavepower.com. Sitting here with Orlando radio legend Mick Dolan. As always, Mick, I know you're going to have a lot of questions as the show goes on today.
That's right. Politics is so important. People go, we'll leave that to somebody else. I got too much to do. You don't have too much to do. This is important.
Anthony Sabatini is running for Florida House District 32. How do you get into politics? I mean, was this something that you woke up in first grade and said, I love this political stuff? Or how did it happen with you?
Yeah, I hate to sound cliche, but it almost was like that. I was a freshman in high school, and a buddy of mine's like, there's this form going around for everyone who wants to run for student council, and I put your name on it, and I once class president, and literally that was it. Class president, student body president, got involved in college, and then. But what's funny is I never got into the partisan stuff, Democrat, Republican. I just never bought into it until way later. I started to basically believe that the Republican Party was, the effective, answer. But I was very open-minded for years and years and years. I was just involved with, electoral politics in the childish kind of sense before that. So,
well, let's talk about your politics a little bit. I mean, what are your political beliefs? I mean, what do you want to take to Tallahassee with you to help support the residents of Lake County?
I mean, they're pretty much the traditional conservative beliefs: free markets, personal liberties, constitutional government, open government, extreme transparency, extreme accountability, extreme, sunshine law kind of. I like openness. Openness is my key thing. I mean, first thing I did on the city commission was essentially create a web link that you could access everybody's salary, all the contracts, all the different decisions being made. And so, there's a bunch of different things I'm interested in government, but you got to come up with an ordered list because you have only so many minutes in a day and so many bills you can file and so many things you can do once you're in office. And at the top of those lists are just sort of nonpartisan, kind of open government type things and breaking down barriers to the free marketplace. I like school choice. I like getting rid of sort of the anti-competitive government measures that prevent people from getting in the healthcare marketplace. I like openness is really the animating principle.
On a local level, do you see, you don't have to name names or anything, do you see or believe that it still goes on where, like, I'm the construction guy and I want to do that big project in Eustis and I know that commissioner guy and I want to give him that contract because we're buddies? Does that go on a lot still?
Oh, yeah, it still does. I mean, at the city level, Lake County is unique. It's 14 little towns. And so because the towns are so little, a lot of the sort of large contracts and developments that would obviously have a little bit of that overlap and some of that sort of shadowy business dealings don't happen at the city level. They're small towns, essentially. You see a little bit of that Mount Dora because obviously the property values are high and there's some really big projects that do happen, but most of the time it doesn't. The county, absolutely. I mean, you see it at the county all the time. And a lot of the county commissions, I would argue, are propped up by some of the development interests and whatnot. So,
and what can we do as a government, you think, to prevent that? I mean...
Just hold them accountable. Right?
Yeah, accountability.
Hey, you guys, let's talk about this.
It's so true. I went up to the Villages last night to watch Roger Stone. For those who don't know, that was the famous old Watergate era Republican operative who is now, he claims he's one of the guys who convinced Trump to run for president, and he's sort of just the anti-establishment guy right now, floating around the country doing speeches. But he said, everyone take your phone out. It was the Villages, obviously, it's a very old demographic, and he said, all of you can affect so much political change just by learning how to use social media and communicating everything.
Absolutely.
And stop bottling your political beliefs. Actually put them out there. Let people know. We hear this cliche, politics is everywhere. We need to get away from it. But at the same time, I just don't buy that because by having the conversation in the public more constantly, I think you're seeing change and you're seeing a lot of the traditional sort of Chamber of Commerce-y Republican types who were doing things in the shadows now being exposed because of that conversation always in the public.
I would think that gives them hope. The people have hope now. Hey, maybe I can do something about this.
Oh, yeah.
Even with your phone. I mean, social media, you're right.
It's so true.
The old school guys on the commission, I'm sure they were blown away when that transparency thing, wait a minute, I don't want people to know how much I make.
In fact, I watched that hearing. I watched the hearing when 150 people got there standing up pissed off on supporting Anthony, but one of the commissioners actually said, I just think he needs to stay off that social media or something like that. because they felt like this whole revolution was coming up because he was actually posting things on social media.
Yeah.
And look, I went to the University of Tennessee. I'm a University of Tennessee football fan. I'm sorry, Gators. But first of all, you Gators love me because they destroy us every year. But we had hired a football coach this past offseason. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was a complete social media revolution to where they didn't hire the guy. I mean, there is change that can really happen. But this is a question I've always wanted to ask a politician, never have. Politicians, as they're running for office, do go around and knock on doors and say hi people, shake their hand or go to the diner or whatever. Does that really work?
Oh, well, if you go to their door. I mean, I think people who go to the county fair or the diner or maybe some of the political events, ribbon cuttings, are probably only interested in trying to meet that one super involved demographic and, who's who kind of people. But the people who come to your door, I mean, they win. We had a judge win last year in Lake County named Brian Welke. He's a county judge. Actually won a trial in front of him. He's a great guy, great judge. But he had very little experience, trial experience.
Right.
He was actually an adoption attorney, very specialized. But what he did is he literally went to every single door he possibly could in the county. He hit almost 20,000 doors in the course of a year.
Wow.
Him and his wife. And he won, and he's on the bench now. But you know why people voted for him? They knew experience mattered, but it's not ultimate. They just knew his character and his work ethic. And those two things overshadowed everything else.
If you look the guy in the eye,
Sure.
that's key right there.
Absolutely.
You know, there was a commissioner in Orange County, Pete Clark, who's now running for Orange County mayor. That's how he got elected.
Is that right? Knocking on doors.
I mean, every day. And that's how I was introduced to him. He came to my door. Yeah. And even though
I see Pete all the time.
I mean, it was a nonpartisan race, I guess, but and I actually at the time was a registered Democrat. He knocked on my door anyway. Yeah. And I'm going, oh, I'm impressed. And we talked.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And man, he's the man.
Yeah,
he's real.
He's totally real.
That's the case.
It's like I was talking last week when I was telling you guys about how I feel when you interact with people. That I think you can change the trajectory of their life by being kind at times. Remember, Mick, I was telling you that last week. But I think it's the same way. I really do believe that knocking on doors as someone who's running for office is going to change that person and that they're going to know you. I mean, they're very likely, unless they just totally disagree with you politically, to vote for you at that point, right?
Yeah. Because they know you.
Yeah, they know you. And I think a lot of people probably care more about the character of their elected official even than maybe we disagree on this issue or that issue, right? I mean, if it's a complete political disagreement, okay, maybe. But if there's just a couple of different issues they disagree, if they know you're a good person, they're going to be okay with you in that position.
One of my ideological beliefs that I got made fun of when I was running, but I stuck to it, and obviously it helped me and I won, was people would always say, you just need to go to the super voters. And for those who don't know, those are the people that vote in every election no matter what, right? So they're like hyperactive people. And I said, I'm not just going to them. I'm going to go to as many doors as I can. I'm not even going to privilege the super voters over the non-voters, or even in some cases unregistered. And they said, what, are you crazy? You're going to waste all your time? You only have so much time? I said, if more people knocked on the door and talked to people who weren't registered or who weren't super active, guarantee you they'd be more active. Yeah. And as opposed to some of the people who are already super active and kind of know what they know, these people are a lot more open-minded and they want to hear refreshing ideas, and that's who I'm shooting for. And so I knocked on a bunch of those guys, and a lot of times people would tell me, I've never even voted, but I'm actually going to go register and vote for you.
This is Anthony Sabatini, current Eustis County Commissioner and running for Florida House, District 32. I need your vote. I need you to help him out. What's the website, Anthony?
So definitely the Facebook page is the hottest,
Facebook,
the hottest, most up to date. It's constant. I do it like kind of like Trump on Twitter. I try to update it every few hours. It's just type in Anthony Sabatini. It should pop up everywhere. But Facebook / vote Sabatini. When
you're out there knocking on doors, getting a real feel of the residents of Lake County, what do you find is the most common thing you're hearing that they're upset with, or the most common question they have?
I mean, honestly, a lot of it's transparency and accountability. I mean, taxes and over-regulation are huge. Actually, let me put that in order. So the accountability and transparency and fairness, just people outside of government don't trust people who are always inside of government, and I'm very sensitive to that, and that's why that's my number one thing. Number two, I would say, is regulations. They just feel like everything is so over-regulated. And my favorite regulations are the ones that get rid of regulations. So, and then number three is what people I think assume is higher, which is taxes. I mean, you hardly meet people who say no taxes no matter what. What you hear them say is, I just want to make sure this money's not wasted, or is it really being used most effectively? And most conservatives like myself are against high taxes because we are at the point where we believe most of that money is being wasted. If we knew it was being managed effectively, we'd probably say, hey, let's put some more higher taxes and get a better community. And so those
you just don't know where that money's going to go, really.
Yeah. So if you got good measures in place, people
and there's the accountability thing. You put it out there. Here's what it is, folks. Here's what we want. Yeah. And now you got to vote for it.
Absolutely.
Or against, or whatever. Just vote.
I always hear about small towns and the problems they have with whether it's crystal meth, pills, heroin, that sort of thing. And there's no doubt that Lake County has a lot of small towns. Mm-hmm. Do we have an epidemic in Lake County when it comes to crime and drugs?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. It's just like Polk County, Lake County, all the sort of rural counties. I mean, I'm sure Orlando's hit just as badly, but I'm a little more familiar with the western side where I'm from. It's terrible. I mean, that's why Peyton Grinnell, the sheriff, I don't know if you remember the video that went viral. He had the shadowy deputies behind him, and he gave that warning. Went viral. It's real. He's addressing a real concern. The opiates are completely out of control. I worked at the state attorney's office for a short period of time, and it's a real problem. Unfortunately, I don't think it's something with a simple government solution. I think it is something from inside that will help those people, and I believe more in the nonprofits and the church's mission of helping those people.
See, I missed this whole pill revolution. Fortunately, Mick, when you were growing up, what was the drug of choice? What was the problem? What was the problem drug? No. Let me re-ask the question, Mick. No. Not the drug of choice. What was the problem drug? What was the one that was causing people to go do
I can't
crimes?
remember any problems with drugs, but I can't remember a lot of them.
You don't know.
Seriously, though.
You old rocker, you.
Quaaludes. Remember them? Well, you guys are all too young.
Well, I mean, I remember in New York City they had the whole crack epidemic, right? Mm-hmm. But now there's no doubt we have a small town epidemic with the heroin or whatever. What is it?
It's
fentanyl.
Fentanyl. I don't even know what this is. Fentanyl. Is that what Michael Jackson died of? No, that was propofol.
This is a newer one.
I don't even know what it is.
It's all based on economics. So when the pill mills got cracked down, the prices went up or whatever. And now this other drug was cheaper, and so they're always going to go for that. Whatever's the
case
cheapest
with heroin.
Yeah.
I mean, the opioids are the best, but then it's like it's too expensive, so they go to heroin. And it's cut with stuff, and you just never know what you're getting.
Unbelievable. Another half hour ahead with me, Justin Clark, on Behind the Law. I've got Anthony Sabatini, who's running for Florida House District 32. 321-282-1055. Bud 94.1. All right, welcome back to the show. Thank you for spending some of your weekend with me. My name is Justin Clark. The name of the show, Behind the Law. I have Mick Dolan here. I have Marketing Jake. Skid, as always, is letting us borrow the studio, pushing the buttons for you as well. 321-282-1055. The website is www.youhavepower.com. You can watch the show live on Facebook anytime at ATTY. Justin Clark, and worldwide on the iHeart app. 321-282-1055. We're diverting a little bit away from your legal problems today to help someone who I want to send to Tallahassee. His name is Anthony Sabatini. Currently, he is the youngest member of youngest in history, maybe, member of the Eustis Commission. City Commission? I always screw this up.
Yeah,
Eustis
City Commission. Every town's different. City Commission.
I get them all confused,
I call
man.
it council, too.
Can we pass a bill to just name them all the same so I don't have to worry about it and write it down when I'm doing radio
shows? There's also a town council.
Oh, God.
Sure,
so please.
Oh, yeah. Village.
Yes. Last thing I need. We'll just call them all the same thing so I don't screw it up on the radio.
Anthony, you mentioned the village. Is the Villages, that part of Lake County, is that part of your...
So the Villages is actually in 3 different counties because obviously it's just sprawling in every direction.
Unbelievable.
A million miles an hour. So it's Southern Marion, Northern Sumter. It's mainly in Sumter. Mm-hmm. It's also Northwestern Lake. I'd say it probably has 20-something thousand residents in Lake, but the number's only going up. Eventually, they'll have their own sort of seat on the county commission. They're a very fast-growing demographic. Yeah. They purchased 2,000 acres from Leesburg not too long ago.
Are they politically motivated?
Oh, yeah. And pretty conservative Republican. Mm-hmm. Definitely motivated, very active.
They all drive golf carts and stuff.
Yeah, they all have the golf carts. It's an interesting place to visit.
I bet. I visited it.
How do you think that the Trump election has emboldened younger politicians in what they might want to say or how far they might want to go in their campaigning? How has it changed?
I definitely think if there's one takeaway, which there's a lot, it's emboldened young, middle-aged, old, all types of politicians, basically people who are like, I'm too real, I'm too myself to be a politician. So I'm not going to get into politics because I'm too blunt or I'm too honest. I have idiosyncratic beliefs. Well, Trump just like cleared the table, and he's just like anyone can do it. And now you're going to start seeing people of all types, whether it's far left or far right, but people who are like, I'm comfortable in my own skin, getting involved in politics, which is amazing. I like to see a huge turnout. Especially in these small towns where I come from. You look at local government offices, and all the way up, especially at the local level. There's less participation. There's less people running. You got incumbents who aren't even being challenged. That's That's unhealthy for democracy. You got to see lots of candidates, lots of options. That's what we should have here.
Let's say hypothetically you're knocking on my door, right? Mm-hmm. And you come over and you're like, well, Justin, what are your beliefs? And I say, look, I grew up Republican. I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio, and I just over the last several years, sometimes I've been turned off by maybe this far right. If you really believe two men should be able to get married, you're a loser mentality of that far right of the Republican Party. And it sort of turned me off a little bit. How do you respond to someone like that?
Well, I will say that at the end of the day, there's always going to be divides on values. And if it's religiously inspired, and there's different beliefs in both parties, that there's going to be inevitable conflict. But I really believe the media just highlights that minority of issues in which you never get a compromise on. And it completely ignores the 80 or 90% of issues where there can be compromise or there is a lot of overlap. And so, there's definitely going to be significant issues based on fundamental, beliefs in right and wrong. But that should not, I don't think, preclude, getting together on so many other issues. And Trump, I think, is a pretty good answer to that because he's really focused more on the issues that I think most Americans would agree on. Even though his approval ratings show that he's only really strongly approved by conservatives like myself, his issues are not ones that are dominated by one party or the other. And so it's been interesting. We're in a transition period, too, so I think everything's going to be changing really quickly here, what the parties stand for.
I think Trump's abrasiveness, he's in your face.
Yeah.
I think that turns some people off. I think that a kinder, gentler Donald Trump, same values, just don't tweet so much, maybe. Or you know what I'm saying?
We'll see. We'll see what happens next.
I think there have been so many people completely disenchanted with politics. So many people in the middle of Missouri or Arkansas who we really don't ever hear from. We don't see them on national news, who love it, who really finally feel like someone is there fighting for them. It's these people who are living off food stamps or they have 5 kids in a 2-bedroom house and are really struggling to make ends meet. But you don't hear from those people when you watch the nightly news, really, but now they have someone who's there telling it like it is. And I think it's that whole part of society which we don't see every day who really likes them. And these people count when it comes to the voting booth. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
Well, working people definitely feel that. And people who are working a lot of hours, working all the time, trying to get ahead, and they don't see their paychecks going up, or they don't see, they can't make the college savings that they want to, their goal, college savings for their kids and all these things, I think the people who are most motivated by, I count myself as one of them. My family, they work a lot. I come from a working family. My grandparents came from Italy with no money, and all they've tried to do their whole life is try to, basically get ahead, move ahead, and just have success in business. And to hear a president that says, I'm with you and I want that, as opposed to sort of giving lip service to the people who maybe don't have the same values or beliefs, it's motivating to them. I'm motivated by Donald Trump. And I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I like it.
So who is Anthony Sabatini? Graduated high school. Where'd you go to high school?
Eustis High School.
Eustis High School. What did you do after that?
So I took some time off, did some reading, and then went to University of Florida, joined the National Guard at 19. Just did National Guard drill most of the time I was in college. When I got out of college, substitute taught for just a short bit of time, moved to New York City for a year and a half with an active duty Army National Guard job after I did my military training. Had to go to Georgia for a year for that. And I call that my road to Damascus conversion to becoming a Republican because I just felt like a fish out of water in New York City. I grew up in Central Florida. I love it here. I love the family values and the opportunity and just kind of traditional beliefs. And then I got into New York, and it really wasn't that. It was a lot of the cultural, just relativism, I guess you would say. And I didn't enjoy it. And so I came back, and I said, I'm going back. I'm going to law school. I'm moving back to Lake County. I'm going to try to get in office and try to fix some good conservative change and hold on to some of the beliefs I think made the country great. And that's really what I've done for the last 3 years.
How did you decide to run for that Eustis spot?
Well, being a law student, I was interested in local government, so I got on the code enforcement board. If you know what that is, that's the people who come by and say, can't cut your tree down or whatever.
Right.
Your dog's barking too loud.
And I was going to be the fair-minded guy in there and be like, obviously drop all of the violations and be like, property rights. And then somebody said to me, like 2 months in, they're like, yeah, you should probably just run for city commission because it's not, there's an open seat. And I think you would like this more than what you're doing. And so I ran and won.
And how was that? I mean, how was that foray into actually running for office? Did you learn a lot doing that, or how was it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, juggling that with law school was hard.
Yeah,
Obviously, in the
so.
National Guard. I've been in the National Guard 10 years, so I got called out on 10 days for hurricane duty that year.
While you were running?
I was a full-time law student in the election, so that was tough. Which is why I'm single. I think honestly,
it's almost like running for office and studying for the bar exam at the same time.
It's tough. Yeah. And then won that election.
Which is what he's doing right now, Mick. By the way,
I see.
Unbelievable. Good luck, by the way.
You'll
be fine.
Will you take that for me, Justin?
No, absolutely. I will absolutely fail for you. You don't want me taking it. I took 2 at once, and I'm done. I would never take another one.
Wow.
But you'll be fine. I think you'll do absolutely fine. What have been some of the more interesting issues you've been involved in as a commissioner?
Right off the bat, it was that as we talked at the beginning of the show,
when they tried to run you off.
transparency.
Oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is the smallest, most humorous issue. Is the first issue I brought up. I saw it as a softball issue. I brought up at literally the first city commission meeting, and I thought it was just such a common sense thing. I was like, I'm going to get a 5-0 vote on this, and then we'll move forward. Pivot from a position of strength.
Right.
And I started bringing it up, and I say, guys, I got all these families coming to me about having backyard chickens, backyard hens, and as any Orlando resident would know, that was a big thing last year, and Seminole County passed it too. And so I brought it up, and I said, guys, these hens, as long as they're fenced in, why are we restricting property rights? Like, we should not be restricting anyone's property use unless you measure a detrimental effect of that property use. If it hurts somebody else's property, right? I mean, if you have a chicken farm in the city, obviously that would be a no-go. But let's say 5 or less, that's fine, right? And it failed 4-1. I was the only one to vote for it. And they tried to get away from the conversation on it, and I kept pressing them. I said, honestly, why are you voting no on this? And that's when I realized that these officials and a lot of government officials don't want to have that open debate and argumentation about why certain laws exist or don't exist. And they try
what
to
would they
them.
say? Would they say why they were against it?
Well, that's where it gets really humorous.
Okay.
So the media loved this, right? Because a couple cities in Lake County already had it. Leesburg.
Come on, it's Lake County. You gotta have chickens in your yard.
Orlando had it. And so they asked one lady why she was going to vote again. She's an old soul. And so she said, well, I grew up next to a chicken farm, and if you have all these chicken farms, and everyone kept trying to remind her, we're talking about like
5 or less.
Most of the time it would be like 2 or 3 for the kids
right.
who were doing F4H or whatever. Yeah. She was saying something along the lines of like the chickens are going to get out, they're going to basically attack people in the street, they're going to be running into the street, they're going to be causing havoc, and then all of a sudden bears and other predator animals will come and attack and kill the chickens. And I'm not joking when I say this, by the way, cause bloodshed and violence in the streets because these chickens are going to attract nuisance type animals into the city.
This was a fellow commissioner?
This is a commissioner.
What?
Yeah. So she became known as the Chicken Lady.
Oh, wow.
And so it
probably got reelected too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you had the mayor who's just, he goes, I'm a realtor, and if I vote for this, then maybe the property values will go down, and I want to make money. And he said that at the meetings. Everybody hit him for that. But it's a dysfunctional commission. Like anyone who lives in a town of less than 30,000 people will know that a lot of city commissions are like this.
Right.
Because a lot of times your best people are like, I rather spend time with my family or my business or travel or whatever. I don't want to go sit in the city commission meeting and get yelled at by people. And so they don't do it. But we got to do it. Civic responsibility. This country, if there aren't good people running for political office, you're in trouble.
Not just civic, but personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
That's the key right there. You've got to take care of yourself.
It's so true.
Government can't do that for you.
Aren't we trying to be like all natural where we grow our own herbs and like do our own chickens in the backyard? I mean, isn't that what we're trying to do as a society?
I don't know about
Self-sustaining
that,
or whatever the word is?
Yeah.
Once again, that was an issue where, I was a pretty conservative, outspoken Republican. I found so many allies outside the traditional party because obviously a lot of the independents and Democrats were like, this is ridiculous. Let them do it.
One more segment ahead with Anthony Sabatini running for Florida House in District 32 for you in Lake County. Please reach out, try to support him on Facebook. Anthony Sabatini for Florida House, 321-282-1055. Justin Clark on Bud 94.1. And welcome back to the show. It's Behind the Law with me, attorney Justin Clark. Thank you for spending some time with me this weekend. 321-282-1055. The website is www.youhavepower.com. You can watch the show live on Facebook anytime or see any past shows at ATTY. Justin Clark and worldwide on the iHeart app. I'm here with Anthony Sabatini, who needs your support so we can send him to Tallahassee to the Florida House. Go to your Facebook page right now. Go like Anthony Sabatini for Florida House. Let's send him some money. We need to raise some money. He got into this a little bit late, but we can't let either of the other two opponents win. All right, Mick, we cannot let these other two win office.
This is primary, though.
I mean, well, it's primary, but you win because Lake County only has, for the most part, mostly Republicans, right?
Yeah, so because it's so red, most time a Democrat won't file. So really, you just get to choose of 3 Republicans which one you like.
So really, this could be the race.
No, it is.
No, 100%.
It is the race.
So no Democrat unless they get a wild hair.
Well, they're gonna. They're gonna lose. So, a Democrat running for that seat likely is going to lose, right?
Well, none's filed, and they haven't filed the last time either.
With Mount Dora becoming more of a destination city, is it getting any more blue there, or is it still just full-blown
if
red?
any area is going to get blue, it's going to be the Claremont region, which of course is in the district.
Yeah,
it's a very nice commute in Orlando, and so a lot of traditionally more urban liberal voters are fine moving into Claremont, so it's getting pretty blue down there.
So current job is the city commission for Eustis, and you were telling us some stories about some of the more interesting things you've brought to the commission and had votes on. What other interesting things have you seen as a commissioner?
Well,
we were talking about the chickens.
There are some really good substantive issues that if I told you about, everyone listening would fall asleep immediately. There are like budget issues, interesting issues that I'm proud of, that it's like they're good government issues, but they're not entertaining. So I'll tell you another really entertaining one. And so Lake County, as you would imagine, it's a red city and a red county and a decently red state. It's a conservative area. And so there is a well-known gentleman by the name of Richard Pettis who sells firearms in our town and around the county, raises a lot for charity. And so City of Eustis has had for years and years and years a big event they do the first Friday of every month called the Eustis First Friday. It's a street festival, and it's sponsored by the city. And he was told when he filled out the vendor application that he was not allowed to sell any firearms at the city event. Yeah. And he sent it to me, and I said to the city administration, I said, guys, I'm like, you need to let him do this, or this is going to blow up. We are a very, very pro-Second Amendment community, sure. like radically, like just let him sell his rifles to this, and they're beautiful rifles, handcrafted, airbrushed, beautiful hydro-dipped rifles. And well, he didn't, and so it turned into a big political fiasco. Well, luckily, I was able to do a little research as a soon-to-be attorney and realized that them telling him no violated what they call the preemption statute, Chapter 790, which is a law in Florida that says cities and counties can't regulate firearms, only Tallahassee can. And so, long story short, after all this fiasco and fighting, he was able to, on 4th of July weekend, that Friday, display all 15 of his AR-15s. But that was a pretty good example of common sense. It's just the sale of a beautiful rifle for charity in the first Friday, and the city administration fighting him and not really giving him a voice to be, not listening to his arguments.
Right.
And had it not been for a pretty good law that we were able to, dust off, find, and apply, he wouldn't have been able to basically engage in commerce. And he raised $15,000 for a child with cancer through the charity he did for that rifle, by the way.
So who were you fighting on that? Everyone?
The city administration.
Really?
Because what happens in these cities is a lot of times the people who work in the city administration don't even live in the community. I would say half the department heads live in Orlando and they commute for pretty cake jobs at the city.
Right.
And so, and I'll tell you, they're pretty good jobs, right?
right?
I mean, these are city jobs, right?
Yeah.
That's just like the cliche goes.
Are there any openings for DJs? At this
Yeah, we should. Yeah, no. Well, the city loves to spend. I'm sure they'll start a radio station soon. Here. We'll do a satellite office for 94.1.
there you go.
I'm sure it's crowded there at 7 p.m. on a regular Tuesday, right? Or maybe 5:01 it clears out. 5:01 p.m. it's done.
Maybe
Okay.
4:30.
4:30 clears out. I understand.
Unless it's a Friday, of course.
Yeah.
But
noon on Friday.
long story short,
they're
though,
like dentist.
it's that I just demonstrate. I mean, clearly that's a issue of more concern to a conservative Republican like myself than maybe another type of voter. But the truth of the matter is, it just shows you the disjunct between sort of city administration and their constituents, because whatever their political beliefs were. Because actually, one of the answers they said, well, guns really aren't family friendly. I laughed when I heard that, because I'm like, obviously you didn't grow up in Lake County. You didn't go into anyone's house without seeing a rifle or shotgun posted up somewhere.
Gun rack in the cars.
Oh,
Very true.
It was in the cars. So long story short, it's just unreflective of their own populace, and that's, I think, government, if anything, needs to represent the concerns of its own citizens.
Look, go to Facebook, Anthony Sabatini, hit like, and you can support his page. You can send him money. Look, it takes money to run a campaign, no doubt about it. He might not ask you, but I will. Any little support that you can give is going to help, because he got into the campaign a little bit late, but we need him. We don't need the other two he's running against. If you want to help him with signs or help in any way, reach out to him right there, and he will personally get back to you, no doubt about it. So, Anthony, when we do get you to Tallahassee, I've always wanted to ask this question. I mean, do you have to pay for your own apartment up there? And now you have to have two homes, right? How does it work? Who pays for the Tallahassee apartment?
Oh, no, they do. I mean, most of the people who go up there just rent. They get like a 3-month, 4-month place, unless they're really involved, whatever, they're in a leadership position, then they end up either purchasing or getting a much longer lease on a home. So I'll probably just find some other good young conservatives who are living up there and maybe file in. I mean, I got friends working in the process right now up there, so maybe I'll get a hold of them. And then
when you're in the Florida house, how do you split your time? I mean, you obviously have to be in Lake County some, in Tallahassee some.
Yeah.
How do you split your time?
I'm a big believer being in the district you represent as much as humanly possible. And so if I'm not in Tallahassee, I'll be back in Lake County. I mean, if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see I don't really miss an event. If there's something happening in Lake County, I'm there. I generally am. Involve all the Chamber of Commerce, all the different events, all the different specialty things, whether it's the Astatula Veterans Festival or, something in a blueberry farm in the south end part of the county, doesn't matter. I'll be there. So if I'm not in Tallahassee, yeah, you'll see me.
You know, a politician that does a real good job of that, jumping back and forth, I think is Dan Webster.
Oh, yeah.
Webster is very active in the community.
Absolutely.
And I live in Orange County, and I've got that little sliver of Orange County that's in his district still. I mean, I'm literally right on the border. But I'm really impressed. His newsletters, he outlines stuff, he helps people. He just keeps you posted.
He's a classy guy, super involved, hasn't lost his roots, and his job's a lot harder than mine, because coming back from Tallahassee is a 4.5-hour drive. Coming back from D.C., it's a
long way.
It's a little bit more of a,
I'm sure you will get to know that commute at some point in the not-so-distant future, my friend.
Definitely.
You know what makes me get your vote here, Anthony?
What is it? The
Look
cracked
at this
screen?
cell phone. You know this guy's working. His phone screen is cracked, so...
How do you have the energy? So my thing is, I get up, I play basketball in the morning, like 6 a.m. Mick, right? Then I go to work my ass off for however many hours, and then he has to do events at night. How many, like, on a regular 5-day-a-week night? How many events would you say you do?
Between 1 and 2 a night.
1 and 2 a night.
2 a night. For example, last night there was a ribbon cutting at a large, really nice apartment complex open in Tavares. The Chamber of Commerce had a thing there. Then I went over to Villages for Roger Stone. Tonight I'll go to the Night to Shine, which is a great foundation started by Tim Tebow for basically disadvantaged youth through the church system. I'll go to that. and I'll get maybe one other thing earlier this afternoon.
And do you have like a certain time of the day, like, okay, I have to drink my coffee for the evening shift at 5 p.m., or how do you get, how do you do it energy-wise?
This is definitely my best friend.
Dunkin'.
Who's listening in, it's Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, I spend probably more money on coffee, but I drink black coffee, so it's not too unhealthy.
Hi, I'm Anthony Sabatini. I drink Dunkin', don't
I know. Well, I'll drink all of it. I get a lot of. I get hit on by or hit smacked down by my Republican friends for drinking Starbucks all the time. But
as a politician, when you go to nighttime events where there's booze involved, do you try to say, "Oh, I'm going to have just one glass of wine or two," or how do you do that as a politician?
if it's the weekend, I'll have a glass of wine. But if it's a weeknight, generally I won't. Unless it's a real celebration,
Right.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, like last night there was an open bar. I didn't drink.
I don't think I'd make a very good politician. Sorry.
That's too hard, man. That's
Mick
too
wouldn't
hard.
do it. But so if it's a weekend, but it's a political event, you'll say, like, I'll have one glass, and you kind of cut yourself off there because.
Oh, no. Well, so I didn't tell you this because we don't have enough time and it doesn't fit in the bio that well, but I'm a certified sommelier. I'm a level 2 sommelier.
Really?
Yeah, I professionally sold wine. My parents had 5 restaurants. I grew up with wine. And so I've drank my fair share of wine.
Beautiful. I did not know that about you.
I know. I didn't.
What is it called? A sabo?
Sommelier.
I always
Sommelier.
mispronounce it. You know, it's the
Yeah.
guy who brings the wine list around and tells you what you like and what you don't like. It's the one that you never really trust because you think they're trying to upsell you. You know what I mean? It's the guy that you always are distrustful of.
Yeah.
But there aren't that many of those in the world, right? I mean, there's.
Well, that's a level 4.
Oh,
so,
okay.
and most Americans call it sommelier. That's how they'll
That's a
pronounce
country,
it.
isn't it? No, that's
Sommelier. But that's the level
in the
4.
Middle East.
So the international
Somewhere.
body that certifies, when you see like the really fancy, or the documentary Somm where they had that content,
love it. I
That's a
saw it.
level 4.
I see.
And so, a lot of people do level 1 pretty much just for fun. Still difficult, but it's more fun. Level 2 is pretty serious. And if you're involved in the trade, it's kind of like a thing you have. It's a check the box thing.
What do you think about the liberal national media? I mean, is this just a keyword, or
Nah, I
that's
think it's
it's
real.
really a liberal media, isn't it? It
No,
really
it's-
seems like it to
it's
me.
out of control at this point. I mean, I follow a couple sites where all they do is they essentially track everything the media does, and then they try to find the hypocritical elements to it. And then before we even go to that, I'll just say one thing, which is that if you look at the amount of news that's negative towards the Republican Party or Donald Trump, and then you compare that with other parties or other candidates, it's so disproportionate. It's inexcusable. And
They're out to get them.
they really are. And it's like, no wonder why the blogosphere and all these other alternative forms of media have become the more dominant and influential, because people have just lost trust in the mainstream media for the right reasons.
I think it takes more time, but you've got to, hit them all.
Oh, yeah.
Hit the mainstream and then go, elsewhere and just try to get that rounded viewpoint.
Me, I get my news from 94.1. If it's not on
That's
here,
right.
then I don't follow it.
94.1 is the place for you. His
And
name
I'm
is
sorry about that.
His name is Anthony Sabatini. I want you to go to his Facebook page, please. Anthony Sabatini for Florida House. Help support him any way that you can. We got to send this guy to Tallahassee. He's off to go study for the bar exam now.
I got one question.
Go ahead, buddy.
Are you ready for Leesburg Bike Fest?
Oh, I can't wait.
Alrighty then.
We had a blast last year. This
Then
year
you
they
got
got
my
Scott.
vote.
Yeah, I know. I love Bike Fest, man. What a great event.
It is. It's getting bigger It's one of the largest in the country.
Absolutely.
Bike Fest.
Yeah, it's the largest 3-day fest in the world, and then one of the largest bike fests at all, just in the country.
My name is Justin Clark. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mick. I don't know a whole lot, but I do know one little thing.
What's
I
that?
will see you right back here next Saturday on Bud 94.1.